They don't know that yet.
Oh shit, sorry.
Hadn't got to the fact that well, it's another hot one. I mean, hot. Not as hot as it has been, but too hot really to work comfortably or even uncomfortably. It's just miserably hot, and too hot to really run the cameras much. So today I did something a little bit different. I just went and did a bunch of work on the car, which isn't really noticeable, but we'll go over that. And I'm just going to do a recap video and show you where we're at, what we did. We did make a trip out to Amarillo yesterday. If you follow the Instagram page for OneMoreBolt, just get it going. You may have seen a couple of photos that we took along the way on the road trip. Well, we found a couple of neat roadside items that were worth stopping and taking a couple of pictures. Anyway, again, that's on Instagram. If you want to check out the Instagram, follow the Instagram. More and more stuff's going to be going on there. Photos or short videos along the way, stuff that's not quite YouTube full-length video stuff, or maybe it's just snapshots out of things. Anyway, look up the OneMoreBolt on Instagram, no spaces, or just get it going. Either one of those should get you there, hopefully. I guess I should test it. But anyway, moving on. What did we do? Well, I'm sitting in the car right now, and next to me is a bucket seat that doesn't look like a horrible Ricer style bucket seat. Now, it's what I had planned on putting in the car, but I had a curveball come up, which gave me an opportunity to get my hands on a bucket seat, or a bench seat that fits these cars, that is correct for a four-door or a wagon, meaning it doesn't tilt forward. Unfortunately, due to the inconvenient location of the shifter, I can't put the bench seat in. So I've got to figure out what I'm going to do about the shifter. I don't know that I want to keep this semi-race style shifter in this car. It's not, this isn't going to be a race car, so it doesn't really need a lockout, a reverse lockout ratchet shifter in here. But right now it's got a 2-speed column in it, because this was a Power Glide car, and there's no way with this column, at least not that I'm aware of, or without some custom fabrication work, that I can make this column work to drive the 700R4 transmission that's in this car. So I've got to figure that out. I'm kind of leaning towards putting an aftermarket column in the car so that I can go back to a column shift for the automatic. But we'll see where that goes. I got to look into what the options are. I don't want to buy an expensive aftermarket column that won't work with a future front end upgrade. So we might be in a pickle on that one. And it might stay a floor shift option, but go to a different location on the tunnel. I just don't want to prematurely butcher anything that I'm going to regret doing down the road. So what I did is I grabbed my buckets that are not Chevy 2 buckets, for starters. And hey, look, there's the woman. Hey, you want to hop in? Look, we have seats.
Woo-woo!
I'm just doing a recap video so that, because I didn't film anything all day. And figured we should just do a recap on the stuff I did do. That way, we at least put a video up of some sort.
Okay, well, dinner's done.
Well, dinner's gonna have to wait a couple minutes. What'd you cook for dinner?
Well, I made pasta for your lunches.
Perfect.
So we can either have pasta or leftover pizza.
Okay. Well, either one of those can wait a few minutes.
Okay.
Seats are bolted in.
No door.
Shh. They don't know that yet.
Oh shit, sorry.
Hadn't got to the fact that there's no door. Well, we'll loop back to that. The lack of closure on this side. So where was I? Oh, so we put the bucket seats. I put the bucket seats in that were in my two-door car that was going to become a gasser. It I don't think these seats are definitely not long-term for the wagon. It is going to get a bench put back in here one way or another. And they're probably not going to go back into the two-door car early either, because I'm probably going to get something that's a little bit more, has a little more support to it for the fact that I want it to be a semi-race application. So I'm looking for something that'll probably have a little more bolster and support that way. And the fact that I'm fairly confident, don't tell my father-in-law, but I'm pretty sure these are Ford seats. I think they're a Mustang or a Mercury Cougar bucket seat. So if the father-in-law finds out about that, he'll give me a bunch of shit. I'll have to beep that out, but that doesn't matter. I probably won't. But yeah, so let me flip the camera around and show you what we're actually sitting on. How do I flip it? Oh, can I flip it while recording?
You should be able to just push that one.
No,
that was the
that took a picture. Well, I took a snapshot. I guess I'll have to stop the recording and restart with it facing the other way. All right, give me a second.
Ship, it's too hot.
You're abandoning ship.
I'm abandoning ship, it's too hot.
All right, I'll be in a few minutes for dinner.
Okay.
All right, so here's what we're looking at. They're just a couple of pretty basic bucket seats. They are for a two-door application. So we have a four-door wagon that has flip forward seats, but they will get us by so we can cruise the car while we're waiting to get the bench seat solution in place. If I back up a little bit further, you can see we've got no door. This was the door that was, did you get me a Coke?
No.
What? You got yourself a Coke, but you didn't get me one.
I was sneaking one.
Yeah, you sneaking one on camera, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, huh? I'm sure nobody noticed. Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Anyway,
Bystanders.
yeah, so the door is off, which if you didn't know with these cars is kind of a pain in the neck. You can't get the door off without releasing the fender from the body. So I had to go through and release the body mount here, the one down there in the bottom, which is always a nightmare because of the way they did it. That one, if it gets rust and corrosion in it, and then it's just a pain in the neck to get out of there, especially on a car that has never been apart. And then what I did is I went along and pulled all these top bolts down to the front over here, and but I didn't get underneath and take the rest of it apart. That gave me enough room to just kind of flex the fender out and get in here, right here, and down here to get the bolts out and get the door off. The reason we took the door off, which is sitting over there, is because one, this door is wrecked. Two, it had no glass. So, and now you can see it's also got no wing window, which it did have a wing window before. We're robbing the hinges, which the one that's still on there that you can see right there is soaking with Croil, which if you're not familiar with Croil, this is one of the absolute best penetrating oils that you can possibly use, in my personal opinion. I'll take it over all the other ones. Love this stuff. Moving on. That's Croil. So yeah, that hinge has got Croil on the backside bolts because I can't get them off at the moment. And they're a terrible bolt from the factory. Woo, don't look at that. From the factory, they use oh crap. Where is it? What'd I do with them? Maybe they're over here. It's a bolt that I lost. Ah, there it is. Okay. No, these are the ones that came out of the door jamb. Oh, focus. Which is a Phillips in the center and a hex on the outside with a tapered seat. So this is would be a fairly difficult bolt to replace. You could probably replace it with a socket head countersink bolt, and it just wouldn't have hex. You'd have to drive it with an Allen drive, so probably replaceable. And oh, there's the devils. These guys. These is what it came from from the factory with, and it's a Phillips only. Oh man, focus is going crazy. Phillips only tapered seat countersink with a countersink lock washer. These guys do not want to come out, and it's a giant Phillips. I mashed on those. I got the lower hinge out. Good old school impact drive to get them to crack loose, which didn't work so well, but it got there. If I was worried about the condition of said door, that would not have been a good option, because I did have to beat pretty good, which lends to the risk of tweaking things. But since that door's already junk, more or less, wasn't worried about tweaking that one. But yeah, so those bolts, if I would have been more patient and let the coil do its thing, it probably would have come out easier, which is what I'm letting the other three that are still on there holding the other hinge. I'm going to let the coil do its thing and deal with attempting to get that hinge off another day so that I, don't destroy anything. So yeah, that's where we're at on this side. The replacement door, which we were just over there by it, I have sitting on the table. Here we go. We have a replacement door that is not mashed at all. It has glass in it that goes up and down, and the wing window from my door right here. This came off of, I think it was a 64. I met a guy through good old one of the Nova Facebook pages, put out a post saying I was looking for a front door for either a four-door car or a wagon for 62 to 65, because I wasn't too worried about the exact trim options that are on it, because, well, this car really doesn't have much of the trim on it anyway, and I don't know if it'll ever make it back on there, so I wasn't too worried about that. And I had a guy message me and say he had a door and that I could come get it, and it was out in Amarillo, Texas, and the door had glass, but he needed the wing window for his project. His project is a four-door Chev 2 being converted to a two-door and going full gasser. Super cool build. I'll have to see if I can put one of his pictures in the video for everyone else to see. But if I don't find it, just know that there's a guy out in Amarillo that's building a cool car, and he's doing some great fab work out of his garage. And he also hooked me up with a door. I just had to go get it. And in the process of talking to him, finding out what he was doing, is how we got our bench seat, which is sitting right over there. It needs to be reupholstered from what he was telling me, but still has a seat cover on it that I haven't even taken off. But the frame is in good shape, and it's a non-tilt bench seat, so it's the correct seat to fit the car. So we'll probably put that in once we get the shifter situation sorted out. While we were at it, he also had a spare good condition 62 hood, which is great for me because I like the 62 trim package better than just about any of the other years, and 62 is what my two-door car is. And I'm not going to bring this down all the way. Actually, I'm not going to bring this down at all because I got stuff in the way. But the wagon needed a hood, something fierce, because of whatever claw, whatever the hell did this damage to this hood is just beyond me. So we're going to have to do something about this hood anyways. The big difference of going to the 62 hood versus a later one is this trim piece right here, which realistically I should be able to pull this trim piece and put it on the 62 hood. However, because I'm not a fan of the 65 front, specifically the headlight region really is what I don't care for. I think the headlight looks like it's protruding out too much. I'm going to, instead of making the new hood right here match what's on the car, I'm going to make what's on the car match the new hood by using 62 trim rings, which the difference in those, grab one from my 62, and you can see the difference, and I'll grab a 65 trim ring setup. Okay, So it's kind of hard to do while holding the camera. Of course, I grabbed the wrong trim ring side. All right, here we go. This should be the right one. So the 65 trim ring goes on like this, and once with that screwed in, there's a bezel, another bezel that goes over your headlight like that. And it seats in a little bit tighter, and that goes there. So that's what your 65, and then right there at the top, that lines up with that trim that goes across the front of the hood. But what I don't like is that whole assembly. Get that in the right spot. There we go. The headlight just, it feels like it protrudes out too far. I like the way the recess of the 62 style, or even the 3.4, which were similar, which I grabbed the wrong side of this one too, so we'll just bounce over here. Go figure. But once this is on, it recesses in more, and this will line up with these fenders. The fenders are the same, but it recesses in better, and with the correct buckets on here, well, that was cool. Apparently my video cuts off at 10 minutes for some reason. Don't care. That tells me where I'm at. We're 15 minutes in. Good deal. But yeah, it was like $29.99, something like that, on Amazon. And it fits fairly decent over that back seat. It'll cover it up. It'll at least keep the fabric and the foam from turning into dust ball in the car going down the road for now, until we can get that reupholstered, which we'll end up getting that done at the same time as we get that one over there done, and actually have some nice benches for this car, which will be super cool. Which means we have to solve the shifter problem before we get there. And yeah, so I think that's all really all the excitement that I have for today. Oh, and I have one other super cool piece, which you may have spotted sitting here in the video. I have no clue what this mirror goes to, by the way. No clue. But I did hit it with a little bit of cleaner just real quick to see if it'll clean up. And you can see that one corner right there on the chrome side cleaned up pretty good. So I think I can make all of this clean up pretty good. There's really no horrible corrosion. There's a little bit of pitting right there on the stem. And I hit the glass a little bit with some cleaner. Hey, look, I can see myself filming. You can see my sweet wood phone case with the American flag in it. Anyway, you can see right there where up at the top where I really worked the glass a little bit, and it started to clean up. So I think this is going to clean up really nice. And why that matters is I actually have a correct mirror for one of these cars. You know, that mirror right there, which is not a 62, by the way, but it does fit the 62. The door mount, the mount's the same. That mirror's probably a 64, maybe a 66, something like that. I don't know. I'd have to look them up. All I know is the 62 is just a little bit different than that one. Doesn't matter. But this is where the typical mount is for the mirror, and it uses one screw that goes in from this backside and catches a bracket that's underneath the chrome that has a couple screws into the door panel. But on my 65 wagon, there's no holes, and no body work's been done here to fill holes that may have had a mirror. And it got me thinking. I was like, well, I need at least one outside mirror in order to be technically road legal-ish, because you got to have, and I'd have to check, it can be different from state to state, but typically it's one interior, it's a combination of two mirrors, either both outside, left and right, or one outside and a center mirror, a rear view mirror up in the center, which I have. It came with the car, and it actually cleaned up halfway decent. I say halfway decent because you can see all that marks over there on that side of it. But I'm not too worried about that. It cleaned up well enough to be usable. And then, but so while I was looking at this and I was trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do? I'm looking at these holes right here in the fender, and I'm going, you know, I bet you this car had a fender mount, which I've only seen in photos. I've never actually seen one in person with a fender mount mirror. And I remembered I had this mirror that I have no clue where it came from or what it goes to originally, you know, what factory application it was from. But you throw it on there, and that is a damn near perfect mirror. It's from the right era-ish. It might be a little bit older, but it's got the right kind of lines to fit the car well. And it uses one screw right here that goes straight down. So I went and dug around in my, oh, I think it's over here. I don't know where I put the screw, but I found a screw, stainless screw that fits this countersink and fits these holes perfectly. So that guy can be attached right there and serve as an outside mirror. And then I sat down in the car and it fits. It looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna pause this real quick. I'm gonna put a screw in here and secure that so it'll stay there, and then sit down in the car so you can see what that angle looks like. So hold on one second, we'll be right back. Okay, so it's attached now. I've got a screw in there. And what I'll do is I'll end up getting just some rubber and lay this over the top of it and cut a rubber pattern basically to serve as a gasket and a pinch. So when I snug that screw up good and tight over it, it'll be on rubber, which will help kind of secure it there without it just gouging into the fender. Should help keep the screw from vibrating loose. And just overall, you know, it's the same as how the factory style is it's got this rubber piece, plastic rubber piece that goes between the mirror and the body. So I'll create, you know, just make something that'll fit that. But then we come over here and we sit down in the car, and obviously it needs to be cleaned up, but you can see there's my hand right at the B pillar. Let me close this door. There we go. The rear door's closed. Pull the front door closed. And you can see there's my elbow right out the window. So the angle is like perfect. And right now with where the camera is, it's directly between my face sitting in the driver's seat and the mirror, which is right there. You can see my hand, and that helps. You can see the body line. You can see that's the driver door handle right there. So I think that's going to be a perfect solution to put a mirror on the outside of this car that is a little bit different. It's a fender mount instead of a door mount, which would be right here. The only real downside I can see about the fender mounts is adjusting the mirror is, well, you're not adjusting the mirror while you're driving. That's for certain, because I can't even reach it. My fingers are probably 2 inches from it. So adjusting the mirror would be a problem, but that mirror's fairly tight, and it's got a screw on the back side of it for adjusting the tightness of the mirror itself. You can see it's right there. You loosen or tighten that screw and the joint loosens up or tightens. So I'm fairly certain if I take that screw out, I can probably clean that up real good and make that all tighten up real nice. But it's other than that little wiggles just because I barely have it snug to the fender, but it's not wiggling in this, and it's on its actual stem. So I think that's going to work really good, and I'm looking forward to getting that cleaned up and on there as just one more sharp little piece on this bucket. So that's where we're at. I know the last video I said I'd have carpet in there, but the heat here in Oklahoma has been kicking my butt and slowing down progress. Now that I've got at least temporary seats in and sorted, so we can do that, I can unbolt those, get them out of the way, throw the carpet down, poke a few holes in it, so I can rebolt everything in with carpet on the floor, and we'll be one step closer. So in the next video, it should have carpet in it, because there's no reason to do that on video. There's nothing exciting about throwing the carpet in there. And then we'll hopefully tackle a few of the, oh, my phone. Yeah, okay, so there's an indication how hot it is. That video just cut off because my phone overheated. That's what I was reading, the warning on the screen. It said something, phone too hot, blacked out. So I had to set it aside for a few minutes, let it cool off in front of the fan before I could wrap this up. What I was getting at though is next time we'll have carpet should be in the car. We'll be wrapping up a few little things to at least have the car be drivable again. In 2 weeks is the Guthrie Road Celebration car show on September 9th for 2023. If anybody's watching this video sometime well in the future, it's September 9th, 2023 is the Guthrie Road and Car Show celebration, whatever the car show is. I'll put a link to that down in the description if you want to check it out. It's a fairly big, a fairly good sized car show, especially for the little town of Guthrie. Draws in, I think there was a few hundred cars there last year. We want to take the wagon. Granted, it's not a car show car; it's a bucket of bolts. But it's still good to get out, and that's what we want to enjoy doing with this car is just get out and get going. So what we have left to wrap up, finish the interiors at this point, we could go with the way it is. Prefer to have the door on the car, but realistically, I mean, a door's not really required, right? Jeeps roll without doors. I think the wife would probably want it, but we'll see where we get to. But we do have a few more mechanical things to address with the car. So hopefully next weekend, we got Labor Day weekend next weekend. It's a long weekend. Hopefully we'll have time to dig into a few of the mechanical issues we need to go through. We need to check the timing. The exhaust needs to be run the rest of the way out, which I'm taking the ultimate hack of doing that using some clamp-on stuff that I got. I'll show you when I do that next weekend. The heat's supposed to be off next weekend. We're supposed to have more mild temperatures. This heat wave's supposed to give us a break, which is greatly being looked forward to. And then we've got a few wiring things to address right down in there that really something's not done right. If I leave the battery connected, as you can see, it's disconnected over there. If I leave the battery connected, the alternator starts to get warm, which instantly says that even with the key off, the alternator is still being, the fuel coil on the alternator is still getting charged or getting power to it. And with the alternator not spinning, that will cause it to overheat, could cause a potential electrical fire, could just cause it to fail and short out. Whatever the case, it's not right. But if we don't happen to get that fixed, we can still take the car to the show. We just have to disconnect the battery when we park it. I'd also like to get the switch on the dash properly wired in. That switch runs fan power and the electric choke, and I think it also runs the lockup for the 700R4. I think that's what the previous owner told me. I actually have to trace it and find out what all it does. But essentially, its ignition power is what it needs. The fans, I might go keep on an aux switch just so that they're not running during cranking because they're just on or off. There's no thermal switch on those yet. I plan to add a thermal switch, but I also plan to replace these fans because they are wimpy. I did the best I could to look up exactly what they were. They don't exactly have good numbers on them that you can look up part numbers from, but from what I can tell, they are the ultimate Amazon special, like $30 a piece 12-inch fan that pushes like 600 or 800 CFM advertised, which means they probably don't even push that much, and that means a combined CFM flow at absolute best possible guess of 1600 CFM, but it's probably more like 1200, being that these are Amazon specials and because it's pulling through a radiator and a transcooler that's hiding right down there. So those fans need to be replaced. We're going to put something that's got a little bit more oomph to it. And with that, I will probably get a thermal switch set up so that they kick on when needed and off when not needed. That'll be just better on the electrical system for the car in general, because there won't be a constant always draw on from the fans. So that'll be the plan. I don't think we definitely won't get the fans done before the car show. I don't think that's not going to be an issue. The car show's 10 miles away. We'll probably cruise the car a little bit, but it's not far enough or a long enough drive that I'm worried about an overheating issue. Yeah, so that's that. I appreciate you hanging in there, and this video is a little different than the last ones because of the heat, because the cameras don't like it, and this camera's probably fixing to shut down again anyway. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Again, thank you for watching and supporting One More Bolt. We'll see you on the next one. Later.